There you go.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. As was mentioned in my introduction, my dabble in entrepreneurship started over 10 years ago. First, as an entrepreneur myself, I'm one of those people that found herself in entrepreneurship rather than look for it. And my first venture was called MUV Talks. I'm a biotechnology engineer, and part of my research turns out it was actually quite interesting and quite valuable. So we spun out a company out of that from a university when I was in third year undergrad. We did that for a number of years, and it was really hard and really challenging, but I fell in love with it. But also I fell in love with helping other people do it, because I thought that they had a lot better ideas than me. So since then, I've transitioned to become an investor, and I've been doing that in New Zealand for almost 7 years. I've worked in 4 different funds, always focused in science and engineering at the very early stage. And I currently do that at WNT, where we hold your hand from a drawing on a piece of paper to getting a product in the market. But if you ask me when I was growing up, I never thought of myself as an entrepreneur, because my vision of an entrepreneur looked like this. And I don't know why in my mind, it was always a guy in a suit and also with a suitcase for some reason. I think I was confusing business with entrepreneurship. But working for over a decade with entrepreneurs has shown me that entrepreneurship looks many, many different ways, as we've seen tonight. But however, there's a fine thread that connects all of those traits and attributes on people. And that's what I want to talk about tonight. What are the key values that I think people should cultivate if they want to pursue entrepreneurship? And I'm going to use a very personal story to exemplify that. And that is my grandma. So this is a photo of her around 1950s, when she was in her early 20s, from the south of Chile. This is around the time where she got married. A fun fact about her is that she only got third year education, so she could barely read and could do barely basic maths. So you can imagine getting married early 20s with no formal training, how difficult life in general was, just getting a job. They moved to a tiny island in the south of Chile where currently there are 7,000 people living. So you can imagine how few and how small that community was back then. But they needed to make a living. Shortly, they had 4 kids. And my grandparent was a shoemaker, so money was really tight. However, the first realization she had as an entrepreneur was other moms were also making the clothes for their kids, but they needed something a bit higher end. So she thought, I'm going to be that person. So she bought a knitting machine, taught herself how to knit, and she started selling knitted clothes, so a bit higher quality. Shortly, that took off. She hired some people, so other moms, and not only started providing for herself, but also for her community. That business went around for a number of years and allowed my grandparents to buy a house, so actually come out of poverty. When they bought that house and resettled in a different part of the island, she had a second realization. And she was like, people can't really get grocery shopping here. They can't get access to food. How are they doing this? I'm going to be that person. So she built a shed at the front of the house. And she started providing food, gifts, whatever people might need in the island. And then she had a third realization when it was people can actually afford to buy 1 kg or 1 bag of something. So sometimes people need to buy things that are loose. So everything that you can imagine that can be repacked, she did it. So if you needed 2 cups of sugar, you can go and buy there. If you needed 1 bag or 1 pad, you can go and do that. Whatever it is that you needed, she will sell it. That business changed the story of our family. It took us out of poverty. It allowed my mom to go to university and for me to be here. And that business existed in our family for over 25 years. It employed several people in our community, and it became widely known, not only in that island, but in the islands around it. So I think that there's a few traits that I want to leave you with that made me very proud about my grandma. So the first is, don't let your background dictate your future. She only had 3rd grade education in a time when being a housewife was the most common and expected thing. She did not let any of that stop her, and she followed her dream. Be tenacious. Have that relentless determination to move forward. Everything's going to be against you, but it's how do you wake up every morning and keep trying. Be curious and willing to learn. Entrepreneurship is learning forever, mastering the art of Googling, the art of asking people, and the art of figuring out that you don't know what you have figured out. Attract the right people. It's not only about you, as it was mentioned, it's about the people around you. That can have an empowering effect, not only on yourself, on your family, but also in your community. The best entrepreneurs that I know and that I've worked with not only surround themselves with people that they can bounce ideas off, but also people that have completely different backgrounds to them, and they can challenge them, because it's all about that, being better every day. Be passionate. You know that fire that you have like inside you that is like, I need to do this thing no matter what? Use that as fire to propel you to pursue your idea. And I think that that's the energy, and having almost that single-minded focus. No matter how you're going to get there, the important thing is to get there. But also knowing when to give up. I'm also a big fan of that. Be resilient. Kind of similar to knowing when to give up. Being an entrepreneur is often more failure than success. The key is not that. The key is to learn how to fail and fail wisely. So how are you going to use that failure to get into the next thing and onto the next thing? Be optimistic and creative. The best entrepreneurs that I've worked with always think outside the box, always found a way to make things happen. If you don't know, find the person that does. Read about it. Now we have information and accessibility all around it. There's always a way to figure out the next thing. But also, creativity is really intertwined with entrepreneurship, and people seem to forget that. Develop a side hobby or develop something that allows you to think and let those juices flow, and you might come up with like the next big idea, just doing that. Be willing to adapt and pivot. I think this is at the essence what entrepreneurship is. It's iterate, iterate, iterate until you get it right. But if, like my grandma, you are at the right place at the right time and you see an opportunity and you take it, you might help change your life, your family's life, your community, and sometimes even the world. So hopefully this has been an inspiration to you, because ideas are worthless if we don't make them happen. Thank you.